Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. So today's video I'm going to talk about Saturn transit in Pisces and its impact on Pisces rising. Anyone with a Pisces rising, Pisces Ascendant, Pisces Lagna or Moon in Pisces. This video is applicable for all of them. So this transit happened on the 29th of March 2025 where Saturn moved into Pisces. So before I talk about what is coming next in the next 2.5 years, let me just walk you through on what happened 2.5 years prior to 29th of March 2025. So during then, Saturn was transiting in your on your 12th house, which is the house of the expenditures, which is the house of foreign land, and which is the house of the medical expenses. I mean, it's a house of hospitalization. So 2.5 years during then you made expenses. They were expenses. They were medical expenses you've incurred. People who are in a foreign land, they must have seen some good results. However, otherwise, there was a lot of expenses in the last 2.5 years. Now, Saturn aspects were not good. Those aspects were on the house of Mars and Sun. So Saturn had a debilitated aspect on your house of wealth, which means you have experienced loss of wealth. You loss of savings, loss of bank balance, loss of money. There were issues around your speech with your, with your close family. Saturn, next aspect was on your sixth house, which means, in terms of debt, that was a good time. You could get the debt. However, there were a lot of legal expenses that were made during then. Now, Saturn next aspect was on the house of your luck, which means there was no luck, like you did not get the support of luck in the last 2.5 years. You faced issues around long-term travel. You faced issues around, your father's health and your relationship with your father. So last 2.5 years, technically for Pisces people, was not good. Now let's talk about, what is coming your way in the next 2.5 years. So guys, this time that Saturn transit would be in your ascendant. Okay, so Saturn for Pisces people lords the 11th house of gains, 11th house of your connections, 11th house of your long-term desire, 11th house of your network, and again 12th house of your expenditure. So Saturn coming in the your ascendant. So like what is happening that there would be some long-term desire you had. During the next 2.5 years, you would see that desire would get fulfilled. There would be expenditures because Saturn is now sitting in your ascendant, and Saturn gives expansion wherever it sits. So in terms of your particular ascendant, which is your body, the body which you carry inside the washroom, in terms of your social image, your complete body from top to bottom, everything around your body. So there would be some expenditures. So expenditures would anyways happen. So because it's time for Saturn, it's also good that you should also spend money on your personal grooming, personal development, personal development in terms of your health, in terms of your grooming, in terms of your clothing, in terms of everything around your body. So that is also seen. So I mean, you would get a lot of good things about good qualities of Saturn in terms of hard work, in terms of discipline, in terms of very serious approach towards life. Your image would be completely changed now. You would be perceived as somebody absolutely different by the world. So your social image would improve. So good placement, in terms of your ascendant. Now, as I said, Saturn has a character trait, like, whichever house it sits, okay, or transits, it expands, it brings expansion in that area. The houses which it aspects, those houses where it creates problems. But this time, the aspects of Saturn are on its friends' houses. Okay, so this time, it's both in terms of the transit as well as the aspect would be excellent. So now let's talk about what are the aspects of Saturn. So third aspect would be on the house of Venus, which is an excellent friend of Saturn. Seventh aspect would be on the house of Mercury, That is again an excellent friend of Saturn. 10th aspect would be on the house of Jupiter. That's a very, like neutral relationship with Jupiter. Now, let's talk about, these aspects in detail. So, third aspect would be on the house of your communication, which means, anything related to hard work. So, Saturn is the planet of hard work and is now sitting in the house of hard work, which means hard work is the new normal for you. Okay. Now, the next thing is that's the house of communication and writing. So, in anybody who is in the profession of communication, in the profession of writing, they are to the profession of social media. That's the house of social media also. This is the perfect time to start your YouTube, your Instagram, your TikTok. People who are into writing business, people who are into the business of communication, they would see a lot of growth, a lot of help coming from Saturn during this time. Now, this is the house of hobbies, and Saturn has a connection with the house of profession, with the 10th aspect. So, a lot of people would see that their hobbies would now get converted into their profession. So, this is the house of short term travel. So, in terms of your profession, in terms of your partner, in terms of your spouse, there would be beautiful short term travels in the next 2.5 years. That's also seen from here. So, there would be, clear communication, good communication with your siblings. So, in terms of third house, like, all the things, what I've discussed is, little, but all the things related to third house, they are completely covered, they are completely supported by Saturn because it is the aspect is on the sign of Venus, which is an excellent friend of Saturn. Now, the 7th aspect of Saturn is on the house of Mercury, which is again a good friend, which means 7th house is the house of your marriage. Okay, 7th house is the house of your business partnership. So what would happen is, a lot of people who are single, or who are facing delay in marriage, okay, or who are wanting to get married, this is the perfect time, an ideal time. You would get complete support by Saturn in terms of marriage. People who are already married, they would see a lot of, support with each other, a lot of love, a lot of compatibility, a lot of respect, a lot of mutual respect with one another. So beautiful times in terms of, marriage. Now, you would see a lot of, communication with your business partner, good communication. Your relationship with your business partner would improve. Your business, in partnership business, that would see a lot of expansion. Everything in terms of expansion, you would see that. So, I mean, beautiful time in terms of your marriage as well as business partnership business. Now, Saturn next aspect would be on the house of your profession, which means there would be a little bit of delay. That's the character of Saturn. Okay, but there would be no denial. So you would see growth at business, growth at your profession happening. You would see promotions happening. You would see everything, your social, your professional image, your professional status, the professional, like your attitude at your work, your perception about you. So everything around profession, you would see a great boost. And also this time, Jupiter would also have an aspect on your profession. So in terms of profession, you would see a lot of growth. So, maybe a promotion that's happening, or maybe, growth in business that is happening. So in terms of profession, it's a good time. So, net, it's a beautiful transit, guys. It covers the most important areas. Now, let's talk about, who gets the impact of this transit. So people with Pisces rising, passing through with Saturn times, Saturn Mahadasha, Saturn Antardasha, they would see the impact 100%. Okay. People who are not passing through with Saturn times and are with Pisces rising, the impact would be little lesser, little milder, but it would be certainly there. Because, I'll tell you the reason why. Because Saturn is a planet that moves after every 2.5 years. And that's, almost the longest, the duration of a transit. So with planets like Saturn, everyone technically would see the impact, would get all these impacts related to your communication, to your marriage, to your profession, and to your ascendant. So that's mostly what I wanted to share, guys. I've come to an end of this series, the Saturn series. So, very soon I'm starting with the monthly forecasts. So that's it for today, guys. I've shared my number in the description. I've shared my email address in the description. Anyone wants to connect with me over a discussion around their chart, you can connect with me on WhatsApp or on my email. So thanks a lot for your time, guys. If you like this video, I would request you to press the bell notification, to press subscription, and to also write a comment, because your comment, it validates my effort. So that's it for today, guys. Thanks a lot. You have a great evening. Thank you.